Then we move to the next section. This is on page 202. Uh, he just got into this habit, the image of God in humans. Have I harped on that enough yet? The image of God in humans as relationship. Uh, yeah, this was an extremely popular and um, predominant view of humanity in God's image. I would say in the mid to late 20th century, maybe a little bit before the mid. One of the theologians who made it, I hate to use the word popular, but helped to make it widespread, was the great Swiss Reformed theologian Karl Barth, Barth, and the Karl is with a K. Um, Died in 1968, born in 1886, I think. 1886 to 1968, that sounds about right. 82 years old. Barth was a great theologian, there's no question. And he certainly said more than this about humanity created in God's image. But he did put a lot of emphasis on the idea that as male and female, one of the things that's connotated there is human relationality. Obviously, human relationality is not restricted to, male, female. That it's arguable that it's probably the most fundamental one, in the sense that most human beings, not all human beings, well, we'll just say this, that Barth certainly took the male and female creation of Adam in Genesis 1 as indicating that at the heart of being created in God's image is relationality. Not restricting it, I'll say one more time, to male, female, but nonetheless the relationality. And he did happen to have pretty highly developed notions in about male, female, that included a fairly, we'll say, standard traditional patriarchal notions that didn't survive well past the middle of the 20th century. But this idea that human beings are relational beings, now, one of the issues here would be, well, are we restricting this to human beings? I mean, like, if being created in God's image is about our capacity for relations, we definitely don't think that relationality really is something that happens only among humans. There was a lot of writing to that effect. Again, I would say in the mid to late, I'd say into the 1970s, even the most important Nazarene theologian, really of the 20th century, in my opinion, a woman named Mildred Bangs Wynkoop. Um, um, I loved her very much, and she was a teacher of mine at seminary and a very influential person. But she tended to think about relationality strictly in terms of humans, in the sense that only humans are truly relational. I don't know if she had any animals in her house, because even human relations generally aren't restricted to humans. But then take the human out of the equation. You know, Creatures are social creatures. It doesn't begin and end with human beings. Does that mean that Barth was wrong in this? Not necessarily. The fact that Genesis says God created Adam in the divine image, male and female God created Adam. You get male and female and divine image pretty, placed in a parallel relationship within that text. So one thing I would say for sure, that everything I said in the previous video about human beings as having this function of representing God in the world to other creatures is in fact a function that we share together. In other words, this we probably shouldn't think of image of God in terribly individualistic ways. Um, Given our sociality, that who you are and who I am and who any of us is such a complex confluence of influences and relationships and histories with other people, both remembered and forgotten now, but people that have flowed into who we are. I mean, that's just as happening all the time. And again, we don't want to restrict it simply to humans, but the point would be it's really in the Bible hard to really extract a person out from Adam like some sort of individual being. Um, we truly are relational. So you see at the top of 203, uh, humans are created in such a way that their very existence is intended to be their relationship to God, said Klaus Westermann, very influential biblical scholar. Uh, Moritz goes on to say this third interpretation of image of God, referred to as the relational view, points out that the functions of the image appear to be entailed through a unique kind of relationship that humans have with God and each other. The thing is, um, like within Genesis 1, I just don't know how unique the relationship with God is. Humans are given a unique task, but God speaks to other creatures as well. Um, I do think that human beings have a uniqueness here. I just think sometimes we overstate some of these matters. If we go down a little bit farther in this, and so I'll try not to make this, well, we'll see how we do here. Same section, so this is on page 203 above the new section. Moritz writes, the functional understanding of the human as being a representative or collectively representative of God is deficient, says Westermann, because man or Adam in Genesis 1 is not an individual but a species. Now that's actually, if Westermann said that, that's, and he was a smart guy, but I'd say that's kind of a dumb thing to say. The functional understanding of humanity is not undone by our being a species or even by our being relational creatures. Again, the idea would be if we have a function as Adam, let's say to represent God within the world, to care for God's creation, to try to make sure that all other creatures are given the space and the energy and the wherewithal to flourish, to reproduce, and it's sort of like the human role to work at that. It's definitely not just an individual thing. It is a collective calling. We do this as social beings, not as isolated individuals. Now, individuals can and do act, and sometimes act very courageously and creatively to sustain or protect, God's creation. They may not even think about it. They may just call it the environment. But in terms of Genesis 1, they would be understood as functioning in this sort of image of God way. Well, we move on. Moritz then says, yet an unresolved question remains for Westermann as he asks, quote, what can be meant by saying that man, Adam, represents or takes the place of God on earth? That would be this earlier functional approach. Then Westermann sort of actually answers his question. This could only make sense if man, Adam, i.e. humankind, were to represent God before the rest of creation. And I put outside, yes. I mean, like, exactly. That's exactly the idea. So the notion that Adam, humanity, has a function, if we like, a better theological term would be a calling. That's, you can have the relational part in there as well. In fact, you really kind of have to. Um, I mean, because existence is profoundly relational. Human existence certainly is, but I've come to where I see you really can't draw the line at humans here. I mean, we're learning more and more about, like, well, we can talk about elephants and elephants' relationship to other elephants, elephants' relationship to human beings. My goodness, go on, YouTube and see all kinds of videos of animals that you wouldn't expect that have become friends. Somebody posted on my Facebook page a thing about a pelican, which I do love pelicans, who has befriended a dog and has become sort of helped this dog when the dog was injured or ill to like get better, and then the relationship just continued. Like that, the pictures of the dog lying there on the ground, and the pelican's got its wing like on and carrying, like overshadowing this dog. These are beautiful and wonderful sort of examples of this idea that relationality is at the heart, really, of created existence. And yes, we celebrate how deeply and profoundly human existence is relational. And all of that shouldn't take away at all from this more functional idea that humans are entrusted with a role of, well, just put it simply, caring for God's creation. So again, when Westermann says, what could be meant by saying that humanity represents or takes the place of God on earth? That's a little strong language, but representative is essentially that, standing in for God. Like, so Westermann says, this could only make sense if humanity were to represent God, can I say it again, before the rest of creation? I'm like, yeah, that seems to be what Genesis 1 actually says. Can we represent God to one another? Of course, absolutely. I think that's also part of our relational existence. However, in Genesis 1, it's not about the humans representing or reflecting God to one another, not explicitly in the text. It's about human beings reflecting or imaging God to the rest of the created order, to the, what I like to call, the more than human world. All right, thanks. One more.